From some of the most famous haunting cases to the scene of horrifying crimes, these are houses that are not for the faint of heart.
Enter if you dare as we dive into the top 10 real families who chose to live in haunted houses.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the Ramsey Home. Okay, so what would you say if someone told you that they bought the home where a horrific and one of the most prolific crimes of all time happened? And then what if I told you that they went to sell it years later but decided against it because they just loved the home so much? I mean, I get it, but I don't. You know, this is what happened when Timothy and Carol Scholler Milner bought the JonBenet Ramsey home in 2004 after it had sat vacant since the terrible crime happened in 1996. The 7,000 square foot home was built in 1926, and after their 2004 purchase, the couple tried listing and selling the home at a price point of $2.3 million in 2008, 2009, and again in 2011, and once again in 2014, but at a lower price of $1.95 million. But surprisingly, no one wanted to buy it. I wonder why. Now the home is unavailable for purchase, but not because it was snatched up by someone, but because Carol and Timothy turned down all of the offers because they just love the house so much.
Number 9. The Amityville Horror House. Now, I understand that when you found your dream home, absolutely nothing could change your mind. But if someone had ended their entire family's lives in it about a year before they'd moved in, I'd probably have some serious reservations. Well, that's the DeFeo house, more famously known for serving as the backdrop to the real-life case for the Amityville horror series of movies after a brutal slaying from Ronald DeFeo. The family that moved in, the Lutz family, believed that they were getting such a good deal for their new home that they were not going to be deterred solely because one of America's grisliest crimes had occurred in it. They paid $80,000 for a 4,000 square foot house, and you know what, gotta be honest, with those savings, I'll let the ghosts eat dinner with me. Unfortunately for the Lutz family, the house ended up being more than they could bear, and after only a month of living there, they moved out after reporting a number of hauntings, from green slime running down the walls to spectral apparitions, and being rudely awoken every night at 3:15, the exact time the original family died. It eventually got to be too much for the Lutzes, who moved out.
In our number 8 spot today, we have Raynham Hall. Raynham Hall is located in England, and it was built around 1620, and it is a large building on 7,000 acres, which is obviously quite impressive. The tale that follows this haunted building is that of Lady Dorothy, or Dolly Townsend, and her husband Viscount Turnip Townsend. I can't believe a couple with the nicknames Dolly and Turnip have an evil history, but unfortunately they do. The story goes that Turnip kept Dolly locked up in the house, which is obviously just terrible and very cruel. After her passing, it's no wonder she decided to stick around and haunt this house. Apparently there was a photo taken of her ghost in 1930, and it is said that no one has ever been able to prove it was fake, so all you photo experts out there, take a look and let me know what you think. Despite these haunting tales, however, it is said that the Raynham family still chooses to reside here.
Number 7. The Ackley House. Now, who's to say that all ghosts have to be pestering little poltergeists? According to the matriarch of the Ackley family, one Helen Ackley, the ghosts who live with her at the Ackley House in New York have been nothing but friendly to her. It all started when her husband, George Ackley, saw what he described as a pair of disembodied moccasins walking across the floor. Then, the daughter complained that there was something that would shake her bed at night, every night, until one day she just asked it politely to stop, and then it did. Who knew if you just talk to the ghosts and just sit down and hash out their problems, you can come to a mutual understanding? From here, the Ackleys reported living friendly with their new roommates. Interestingly, the Ackley House led to the naming of one of the funniest named cases in legal history, the Ghostbusters ruling. Although the Ackleys were aware that the house was haunted when they bought it, and they liked it, when they sold the house, they did not mention the paranormal elements to the new buyers, who claimed they would not have bought it had they known. Meaning the new family were allowed to pull out, but only if they told the judge that they ain't afraid of no ghost.
In our number 6 spot today, we have the Conjuring House. For this one, we are taking a look at the home that was the background for one of the most famous Ed and Lorraine Warren cases of all time, as well as the setting for the first Conjuring movie. This house, which was built in 1736, wasn't anything special and didn't really gain its fame until the family of Roger and Carolyn Perron moved in 1971. They claimed to experience terrible things like the smell of rotting flesh, witnessing something levitating in their beds as they slept, and one of the family members even claimed to have been possessed by a spirit. The family of course called Ed and Lorraine to come and investigate and hopefully help them out. Once there, the pair claimed that there was in fact a spirit haunting the home, and it was that of Bathsheba Sherman, who was said to have been a witch who previously lived in the house and who was buried in the cemetery nearby. The story was sensational, and despite its modern fame thanks to the movie franchise, in 2019 Corey and Jennifer Heinzen still decided to buy it and open its doors to paranormal investigators from all over the world. As of this year, however, rumor has it that the estate has a new owner, a Boston developer with a deep belief in the paranormal by the name of Jacqueline Nunez. It is reported that she was prepared to go to great lengths to get the home as well, as it is claimed that she paid around $1.525 million for the haunted house, which is about 27% higher than the asking price of $1.2 million.
Number 5. The Loz Felis Mansion. The Loz Felis Mansion was the happy home of one Dr. Harold Perelson and his family, a picturesque old house in the heart of LA. At least it was, until one night, something changed in Perelson, and he saw fit to try and slay his whole family with a ball-peen hammer. Normal doctor stuff. Tragically, he fatally struck his wife, but luckily his children managed to escape. He himself chose to drink acid instead of facing the police, leaving behind on the bedside table a haunting excerpt from Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. It's said that the spirits of the late doctor and his wife were still trapped inside the house, unable to leave from their violent final resting place. 2 years later, the house was purchased by the Enriquez family, who knew all about what had transpired earlier and was interested in the property, but not as a home, electing it to use it solely as a storage unit instead. It makes sense. Ghosts never possess inanimate old scary objects when they're left to their own devices. Never. They continued to use it as a storage facility no problem, but come 2016, the house was put up for market again, and suddenly no one was interested whatsoever. The Enriquez family could not find a buyer. The Enriquez family offered this piece of advice for anyone who wanted to buy the haunted house looking for a good deal: just say a prayer every morning and every night. Maybe get some other stuff too, maybe a ring of salt, maybe a rosary, I don't know.
In our number 4 spot today we have the Sallie House. The Sallie House is a haunted house that is located in Atchison, Kansas. The house was built in the mid-1800s, but its haunting history started when a doctor purchased the home. The doctor had his office in the front room of the home, and he lived upstairs with his family. One day a mother brought her daughter named Sallie to the doctor, and it was there that she was diagnosed with appendicitis. The doctor claimed that there was no time to wait and began performing surgery on her right then and there, even before the sedation had set in. Sallie ended up passing away, which is obviously very terrible and sad, but despite these stories of the home's history, it didn't stop renters Tony and Deborah Pickman from residing in this home in the mid-1990s. After they began living here, the story of this haunting gained a lot more attention, however, because they began experiencing some really strange occurrences. These occurrences ranged from strange voices to clear burnt finger marks on candles that had been mysteriously lit, all the way to actual attacks made on Tony. This led to extensive investigations being done by a Kansas paranormal group who found that Sallie was haunting the house, but surprisingly she wasn't the only one. There was another spirit of a middle-aged woman who was apparently the one who was behind the more aggressive and frightening attacks. Now the house is open for self-guided tours as well as special overnight visits for those who dare.
Number 3. The White House. Yeah, you heard me right. And don't worry, I'm not going for any sort of political metaphors here. I'm not smart enough for that kind of commentary. I fell off way too many razor scooters as a kid. The White House has been home to a lot more than the seat of the American government, as it's home to a number of ghost sightings, including the ghost of the great emancipator himself, Abraham Lincoln, as well as his son, Willie Lincoln. Several presidents over the years have reported seeing strange and unusual sightings around 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. A White House spokesman said he definitely believes in ghosts because if he didn't, he would be calling 8 presidents a liar. The first president to ever report a ghost sighting was Lincoln himself, who said he would see his late son Willie at the foot of the bed, something his wife would also corroborate. After his assassination, political leaders all over would report seeing Lincoln at times of great need in the country. Churchill claims he once stepped out of the bath, embarrassed to see Lincoln standing in front of him. Abe is one of the most reported ghosts the visitors claim to see at the White House. Reagan once claimed that his dogs would follow him in every single room of the White House, but refused to go inside Lincoln's old bedroom, and would instead just bark at the door.
In our number 2 spot today, we have the Dahmer Home. Jeffrey Dahmer is of course one of the most terrifying and prolific serial killers ever, which is exactly why it doesn't come as a surprise that his home, the one where some of his very first crimes were carried out, was a bit of a tough sell. Yeah. Turns out most people don't want it. How strange. PETA, of all companies, was going to use the property to convert it into a vegan restaurant, but because of zoning issues that never happened, so they needed to look for someone else to purchase the property instead, and that ended up being Chris Butler, the rock musician from Waitresses. According to Chris, when he first viewed the home, he had no idea the dark history behind it. He was really intrigued in it because it is surrounded by woods, and as a rock musician, looking for somewhere you can make as much noise as you want without bothering anybody is ideal. When you think of a serial killer owning it prior, that thought immediately gives you chills. In the end, he says he went with the house because he really liked it, and it's not like it's the house's fault for the atrocities Jeffrey committed, which, I mean, it's fair. He also doesn't believe in ghosts, so he doesn't worry on that front. According to him, the only thing he really worries about in the home is all the people stopping by who want a tour, like they're entitled to it.
And coming in at the number 1 spot is the LaLaurie Mansion. 1140 Royal Street in New Orleans looks gorgeous on the outside, but on the inside is home to a storied history of horror. The house was first sold in 1838 to a seemingly well-meaning couple, one Dr. Leonard Louis Nicholas LaLaurie and his wife Delphine LaLaurie. Seemingly well-meaning being the key term here. For starters, they were slave owners, and Delphine treated them horrifyingly. She would put them through all kinds of physical torment. 2 of the people she had enslaved jumped to their death rather than ever have to face any more of her. In the attic above the kitchen, she kept people chained up, bodies broken, eyes gouged out, kept alive solely for the purpose of inflicting as much cruelty as humanly possible. Delphine fled the mansion behind, and the house laid in a state of ruin and disarray for years, eventually finding its way into the hands of a national treasure hunter, one Nicolas Cage. Yep. That one, like the guy from Face Off. Cage said, "I bought it in 2007 because I figured it'd be a good place to write the great American horror novel. I didn't get too far with that one." It was said that the house had been haunted with such violent energy still residing in its walls. Only a guy like the Ghost Rider 2 star Nick Cage would see that and think it sounds inviting. Wild at Heart star Mr. Cage only stayed there for a few years, eventually moving on from the LaLaurie Mansion in 2009, leaving it behind where it now operates as a tourist destination. And no word if he's made any more progress on that great American horror novel or not.
Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been one of your hosts today, Olivia Kozlowski.
I've been Taylor.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
I'll just sit here and look pretty.
Perfect.
Come up and look pretty too far back again.
Perfect. Oh yeah, back to back. 80s sitcom.
Boom. Done. Intro done.
Perfect.
Amazing. One take wonders over here. I don't think that's right math, I'm realizing. I didn't do that math. Which is about 27% higher than the asking price. We'll just end it there.
Yeah, we'll just trust it.
We'll make sure the maths no matter what.
We'll just trust it.
It's really fucked up.